One sunny afternoon in June, I jumped in the car and drove into the beautiful countryside near Coen on the Costa Del Sol to meet Polly Perkins. We were going to record a quick interview about Eldorado. But before I knew it, I'd been made to feel like I was completely at home, surrounded by Polly's pets. We were chatting about her life, listening to her music over a drink. And I decided that it would be great to get some of these stories on tape. So if you're here for Eldorado, you need to skip on to the next video. But if you'd like to hear about Polly's life in the run-up to Eldorado, you're in the right place. Polly, thank you for making me feel so welcome today.
Thank you so much, Dave. So nice to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure to meet you. Now, we're here today because of the 25th anniversary of Eldorado. But before we get there, I want to talk to you about all sorts of other bits and pieces because
not everything.
Almost everything.
You hold back sometimes, Dave.
I've just read your book and you didn't hold back in that.
No, wait till you see the next one.
Your life has been an incredible journey with dancing, theatre, music, television, and your story almost sounds like the plot of a film in itself. If we start with your parents, they sound incredible.
Yeah, they were very small.
How tall was your mum?
3'11". My father was 5 foot.
You really were born into showbiz, weren't you?
Oh, yes, definitely.
I don't want to give away too much here because you've got this fabulous book, Far Too Dainty, which that really does bring your past to life. But without going into too much depth, you moved around a lot when you were a child, didn't you? A lot of different houses.
When I was actually a child, I don't remember much about that. We actually found a very small 2 up, 2 down in a back street in Leicester. And from then, I was in care for a couple of years. And from then, I came out of care and I slowly grew up. My mother had an accident, couldn't walk. So I was a carer for a while, which was, none of it was a problem. I don't remember thinking it was a problem. I was glad to have my mother back, to be able to be at home again. And then all of a sudden, I decided I was going to go to London. And I went and worked in Battersea Park. And then, I somehow or other, got an audition at the Windmill Theatre, and I ended up on the stage. Rather flimsily clad, I have to say.
Being a Windmill Girl must have been quite a big thing for you.
It was. It was a very important thing because the Windmill Girls had always been looked up to. The Windmill Theatre was a tradition, and the girls at the Windmill we were all treated in a special way. We weren't like the girls who took their clothes off up the road in Old Compton Street where the punters used to sit, but we still had the same thing. We still had men in the trying to get in the front row in case they could see a bit more under the UV lights. But we didn't actually move. When we had no clothes on, we didn't move at all. But when we were scantily clad, there was nothing to be seen because we were wearing a costume. But otherwise, you stand on a plinth at the back and look like a statue. So everybody, I was so kind. Everyone, I'm still friendly with them too. I know one's just died. Everyone's going. They're leaving me behind. It's no good, is it? I'll have nobody to phone soon. I'll be phoning you all the time, Dave. I'll be on the phone. You go, no, it's not her again. Have you got your clothes on? You say, Paul. Are you sure you got your clothes on? Oh, I'd have frightened the horses now if I took them off.
When you were growing up, your mum and dad had a double accident, didn't they?
Yeah.
When did you think showbiz is what you wanted to do for yourself?
I didn't think I wanted to do it at all. What I wanted to do was escape from this street in Leicester, a back street in Leicester, in my 2 up, 2 down with no bathroom. And I'd been to my friends, because I went to grammar school, and they were all got the best uniforms, and my mum had to knit the jumpers, whereas they got it from the proper shop and things like that. And I got fed up with that. And I couldn't play tennis because my mum couldn't afford tennis racket. I played hockey because they were in a big box you could borrow. So I was all right with hockey. But I was just thought, this is not me. I'm not right, and I'm too old. I wasn't old at all. I mean, I really wasn't old. I was 13, 14. And I thought, but it's not my life here in Leicester. There's nothing for me here. And I don't want to do the working men's clubs. And then I went to London, and that was it. Really, and didn't look back. And my father was working, running the nightclub in Great Windmill Street, right opposite the Windmill Theatre, and he was the Panama Club, and he was the comedian and the manager of it all there. And he said, and I just arrived in London, And he said, well, you don't think you can sit on your bottom, Gillian? He said, go over to the Windmill, do an audition. Oh, dear, I did. We had such a fabulous time, absolute fabulous time.
You must have met a lot of well-known showbiz personalities back then, especially through your parents' connections and your work at the Windmill.
Mrs. Shufflewick worked at the Windmill as one of the acts. Bruce Forsyth, just before I was there, he left just after I'd got there, and he was well known for being there. Mrs. Shufflewick was fantastic, became a friend, and we ended up, funnily enough, at nights at the Comedy, which was Dan Farson put the show on. I think with the Kray brothers, they were sitting in front of us when we went to see the show, and I ended up in it. That was the first theatre, I think. Straight theatre was, but it wasn't. It was a mixture of all sorts of different acts. Just things sort of happened. And it's the same with the television, all of a sudden. I had an agent, Lena found me a straight agent, whose name was Margaret Hamilton. Margaret Hamilton was the actress who played the witch in the Dorothy, Wizard of Oz. And she looked... Her name was Margaret Hamilton, and she looked the image of Margaret Hamilton, who played the witch. She looked like her. I said to Lena as we walked in, I went, she played the witch in The Wizard of Oz. She said, yes, well, it certainly looks like her. She was a wonderful agent. She got me an audition, and the next thing I knew, I was in a lead in a BBC play. Just like that. It was just absolutely amazing. And she got me loads of bits of work, and she was in Shaftesbury Avenue, her office. I said, oh, this is all very good, isn't it? I'm down on the television and things. I didn't expect anything like that. It just seemed to just happen. And having Lena as my manager, she could guide me in directions of the next person could actually get some work, which an agent can do. But a manager can't do. You've got to find the agent. And it's always been like that, though. And it was just one thing after another. I've never been so happy in all my life.
And you mentioned the Kray brothers. Did you have much interaction with them?
Not really.
They've become the stuff of legend since.
Yeah,
so I wonder what your impression of it was.
I got on all right. Actually, I got on all right with them because at that time I wasn't really aware when I was a teenager, late teens, and I wasn't really aware exactly what the Kray brothers were. But then you could tell when we went and had that meal in the Lotus House in Edgware Road. You could not tell that they knew there was somebody. The waiters were all like kowtowing and everything, and they're very generous. I've got to say they were very, very generous. We had a wonderful Chinese, it was the Lotus House, a lovely Chinese meal, and there was a bottle of rosé wine on everybody's, for everybody, a whole bottle. Well, they were only little bottles, aren't they? And I just didn't know that they murdered people. I think a lot of other people did know that, but I was still young and didn't know anybody murdered anybody. I knew that murder used to be happening mostly in people's homes, like husbands murdering the wife or vice versa. I didn't really know there was a whole load of people murdering other people because they murdered people. They murdered each other. And when I found out that, I thought, well, that's up to them, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's true, though, isn't it? They're all murdering each other. Well, they're getting rid of a lot of trouble, aren't they, there? And but they were absolute, to know, it sounds terrible, but to know they were absolute gentlemen. They were so, so nice. I didn't know they were busy murdering and pillaging and plundering left, right and centre, but it all came out. It came out years later, exactly, when they made the films of it. They made the films of them, and it was all true. And I remember the Regency Club, just off Charing Cross Road. I remember going up there after I finished work sometimes. I'm working late in cabaret, a bit later on from here, because I was doing cabaret all over the West End. I was leading lady at the, I keep thinking Stork. I wasn't at the Stork. It wasn't the Stork at all. I worked at most of the leading nightclubs, but this one wasn't the one. But it was fabulous, fabulous there. And, they sort of sometimes came to see me where I was working, which is really strange. Because I didn't know quite what they were, but some other people knew more, like my friend Lil. My friend Lil, who was got a bit more up here. She's only 2 years older than me, but she used to say to me, now, if we were in a pub having a drink with the chaps, she used to call them the chaps, and they're all booted and suited. She'd say to me, now quieten down. They don't realise how young you are. You don't, because I was like 15, 16 when I was like going round with the chaps when from Battersea Park. And she was very ladylike, and she used to haul me back and get me out of all troubles. Not him, she'd go. You don't go there. You come with me now. She's only 2 years older than me, but she'd been around. She'd a lot more. She'd been like I'd been in Leicester and school and that, and she'd been in London all this time. She was actually living in London. Fabulous person. She was a fabulous dancer as well. It's all in the book. You've read it, haven't you, about my little...
You were born Gillian Arnold. When did Gillian Arnold become Polly Perkins?
Gillian Arnold turned into Danny Arnold, which was D-A-N-E-E, because one of the girls thought it was a good way, Danny, one of the dancing girls at the Windmill, said, oh, don't say Danny, it doesn't sound, it sounds right, Danny. So I was Danny Arnold, but everyone used to call me Danny. So I was Danny in Soho for years, well, not years, a couple of years. And then, all of a sudden, in a club in Soho, I met Lena, who became my partner for a lot of years, and my manager. That's when we're on the top of the bus, coming from a music publisher who's sending us to Decca, to the head of Decca, to get... I was going to be signed at my first record, which was that silly Cockney thing, I Reckon You. It's all about a little silly girl. That's why we named me on the bus Polly Perkins. We thought, well, that'll suit that little Cockney record. And it's, I like to wear my short skirt and a blouse with frills, me hair done in a bouffant and 4-inch high heels. I love to go out twisting with my best friend Sue. But, oh dear, reckon most of all, I reckon you. That's how it goes, and there's more of it. And that was my very first record, and we were signed by Decca, and it didn't do too badly. And that's, in fact, how I also got the play. And I also got to write the title tune over the play. She's a Free Country, the play was called, and I wrote the She's a Free Country tune, yeah.
Now, you mentioned Lena was your partner and your manager.
Yeah.
I've read that at the time that you became a pop star, you were the only openly gay female pop star.
Yeah. In
Britain. How was that extra pressure for you?
No, because I was in the business. Loads of people, all the boy dancers are nearly always gay. Very few girl dancers are gay, but there were a couple, that I knew that were gay, and there was a gay scene in the 60s. There was a good gay scene. There were some nice clubs that we could go to and have no problem. And even later, I owned my own club in Mayfair, in Green Street. So, it worked. After the 60s, everything started to... Everyone was not looking down or up or anything. If you're gay, you were gay. If you're a dyke, you're a dyke. If you're a puff, you're a puff. You know what I mean? It all started to become like it is now. There's like Tim is straight, my son, who has just done all the gay, what are they called? Gay prides, all over. He's done Brighton Pride, something else Pride. I think he's done about 5 or 6 prides, Isle of Wight Pride. I've done it everywhere. And people say, are you gay, Tim? I said, no, my mum is.
Now, of course, your recording career really took off. In fact, you brought one of your albums in for me to have a look at today, Pop Law According to the Academy.
Yeah.
Now, this is a great piece of work, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah, it is. I was very lucky to be involved with the people that I was involved with on it.
It's very much a sound of the times,
yeah.
But it's had some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's had something of a resurgence. I know Mojo magazine have taken an interest in this album,
yeah.
And they've spoken to you about it. What are your memories of it?
Oh, it was the best time in my life. It was absolutely the best time in my life because we learned a really nice home with Lena, who was then my partner as well as being my manager. And I'd gone off to get myself a baby who was now nearly 3. And so he was involved as Toby, and he used to, while we were rehearsing and writing, Lena would be writing the lyrics, I'd be writing tunes, and the band would be rehearsing. The band, it only consists of 4 people. Apart from Lena was the 5th as the manager, and also was writing a lot of the important lyrics, because they are important, and they're quite... political. Some of it's not political at all. There's a gay bit. There's all sorts of different. There's a story about a wife coming home back to her husband, and child that she's left, but she's coming home. It's a beautiful song, isn't it, that one? It's just beautiful, the story, and you can just see it. You can see that the husband and the little girl standing at the bus stop waiting for her to come back off her bus. And when I first actually read the lyrics, which Lena wrote nearly all the lyrics, wonderful lyric writer, and I cried at the thought of this going and, you know, this separation and then the coming back. Everything is poignant. The lyrics in the whole thing are poignant and all mean something. There's nothing in the whole thing that, I mean, even the transvestite, you can see it. We played that one, and you saw it, didn't you, Dave? You could see the man being the woman in the mirror, and that was what he wanted to be, his girl in his mirror. And I don't know where it all came from. I don't know where any of it, how we did it. Because there was only Lena writing lyrics, I wrote some lyrics, I wrote a lot of the tunes, and the boys, there were only two musicians, were incredible. It sounds like a full band sometimes. It's the best time in my life.
Well, let's pick a song off this album and have a listen. Is there something that you'd like me to play?
What do you think She Returned Home? The one about the wife coming back to her husband and child.
Let's give that a listen.
Have a listen, because you've got to listen to the lyrics. This is not an album. You don't listen to the story. It's just everyone is a story and could happen to you.
She returned home, traveling on a green bus, brown faded coat and only carrying one suitcase. They stood waiting patiently for her, so alike, a big man, a small girl, each hoping the other would learn to forgive. The bus slowed down to her own destination. Her eyes grew tense as she prepared herself to face them. What could she say when first she saw them? Side by side, her husband and daughter, each knowing the other must learn to forgive. Perhaps she'd tell them the words she'd prepared. But words aren't easy when you're on the verge of searched the crowd for her first sweet sight of them. When their eyes met, each stood still and uncertain. When at last she ran towards them, each face, her husband's and
Polly, that came from your album Pop Law, according to the Academy. Now, this whole album, we've just talked about how it's a real storytelling album, and your style of delivering the vocals on it is very, very different to essentially the novelty record that you started out with for Decca.
Oh, absolutely.
How did you go from the novelty act to this very serious, artistic music?
I think it was the novelty thing was basically being signed up by Decca. And that's what they were looking for, and they wanted a Cockney singer. Well, I'm not a Cockney singer, I'm not even a Cockney, but I'm an actress, and that's what they wanted, and so that's what we did. And it did very good, as far as, plays and things like that, and it was quite popular. And really, it led to other things, strangely enough. It led to me doing a commercial, and then it led me doing a play, and then me writing, because I wrote that tune as well. And I wrote the song for the play. She's a Free Country, it was called. And the song was, I can do just what I want 'cause she's a free country. Don't you try to say I can't 'cause she's a free country. You better learn that women rule. Blokes don't have no say at all 'cause this country's really free for girls like me. And that was not sung like that quickly, but it was the tune and the words, because over the intro, the play on BBC.
Another album which you had lots of success with is Songs for the Liberated Woman. There's a real mix of styles on this one.
No, some of them are really old American songs, and I think some of them are definitely songs that I've written, but most of them are really old songs, like Moonshiner. That one is. Do you want to hear that one?
A little a cappella treat.
A cappella, darling. Here we go again. I've been a moonshiner for many long years, drinking my life with whiskey and beers. I've had lots of fun, and I don't feel no shame. I'll shake any man's hand, and Polly's my name. I go to some inn, and I'll drink with my friends. No gentleman follows to count what I spend. My time and my money are both mine alone. But if you're real pretty, I'll take you back home. I eat when I'm hungry and I drink when I'm dry. If moonshine don't get me, I'll live till I die. The sun don't warm me like sweet tasting wine, and the world looks so pretty by the light of moonshine.
Lovely and brilliant.
It's about the words. It really is about the words. And I'm lucky to have the range that I've got, that I can change the tone of my voice. But it's if you're having a conversation and you're saying something meaningful when you're talking to someone, it's going to be a different tone of voice to one when you're excited and you're having a party.
From here, you've been on stage, you've done stuff on the television, you've been a presenter, you've been a successful musician, and then at some point you decided to move away from that scene and move to Spain. How did this happen?
Goodness knows, really, how and why. I like the sunshine. I went to live in Spain, in northern Spain, in Sitges, and I worked in Sitges doing cabaret and various things, and I realised how much I loved the sunshine. And I'd also done a lot of like continental shows where I'd been like the act coming on at such and such a time, working with Shane Ritchie, who was in great charge as usual, master of ceremonies, and that was a great life as well. And I always took my children, and it was wonderful because I was allowed to take my children and have free board, and didn't get paid, all the food, free board, my children, fabulous rooms, everything was marvellous. And I used to take my records, and I sold an awful lot. I made my record myself, paid for it, and the cover and everything. One record, not CD, didn't have them then. One album, record album, long player. And I made more money out of that than any other record I've ever brought out, even the Academy, because that was really underground at the time. And of course, this was all standards, songs everybody knows, like Birth of the Blues and, I Want to Be Happy and all sorts of songs that you'd recognise.
My chat with Polly Perkins continues on the next video when you'll hear about her work on Eldorado and EastEnders. Before that plays, please do click the subscribe button and press like if you've enjoyed this.